I'm 60 days now into owning a cargo van, and I'm going to share with you some of the numbers and some of my observations on this segment of the Gig Geezer. If this is your first time checking out the Gig Geezer, if you're a returning visitor of the Gig Geezer, hey, thanks for coming by. And if you would not mind, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. The most pressing matter that I'm dealing with as a cargo van owner is finding avenues to take my income to the next level. I've watched other YouTube content and I've had conversations with people who are in logistics or the cargo van business. One of the ways of getting there is when you put the van on the road, or what they call over the road. And that is where the money is supposed to be. Now, I've seen examples of people posting some of the money that they've made on Facebook groups. There's a driver who's made regular posts, that at least what I've seen in recent weeks, of trip opportunities in which he makes anywhere upwards of $2 a mile. The least I've seen him made is somewhere about $1.25 a mile. Now, that may be on the high end for cargo van owners, at least from what I'm gathering. But please correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below. I have been told, at least by someone who runs a cargo van business, that the average cost for owning a cargo van is about 38 cents a mile. Quite frankly, I've not attempted to try to figure out what have been my operating costs per mile. But from what I've seen so far, I have been able to pay my bills based on what I've been making. Now, am I getting ahead? No. Am I managing to stay in the game? That may be a victory in itself with me saying yes. The over-the-road component of cargo van ownership seems at this time to be the very sexy thing that people like to talk about, but it's been my impression that it's far from sexy. And what makes it not sexy? You have to ask yourself, how are you going to find the loads? How do you do? Do you align yourself with logistic companies whose goal is to keep you running? Do you try to find load opportunities via load boards? Do you try to broker opportunities on your own, or do you work up some other kind of strategy? Now, to answer these questions, at least for me, the first answer is no. At this time, I don't see it being worth my while to align myself with someone, at least working for a logistics company, that is. Although it's been shared with me, that is a good way to learn the cargo van business, but also gain valuable experience. This is one example that I'm going to share, at least why I believe at this time it is just not worth my while. A little more than a week ago, I spoke with a lady who runs a cargo van business out of Concord, North Carolina. In fact, all I had to do was call her back and we would have gone ahead with the paperwork, and I probably by now would be going through orientation and some training to at least being ready to go on the road for this company. A couple of things that kind of made me balk at the notion. First of all, she said that I would have to go under their insurance, which some people wouldn't have a problem with. But also, I would have to go under their authority, which is that is based on the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. That is what gives you the right to transport loads across interstate lines. Well, again, that may be a win-win situation for some people, but for someone like me, I don't know if I want to go that route. It's almost like as an insurance agent, do you want to be a captive agent, meaning that at least in property and casualty, do you want to work for a place like Allstate and State Farm and under the old nationwide business model? Or do you want to have your own agency and work with a bunch of places, and what it amounts to is you're going to make more money as an independent agent than you are as a captive agent? There are other things that I could talk about, but it's not worth it at this time. And by the way, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer and any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. Now, the lady shared with me an example of her newest driver. This driver came on and started taking loads or running loads about the same time I bought this van, which was December 16 of last year. Now, she says, at least as of last week, and today is Thursday, February 16, 2022. She said, based on her numbers, he had made right at about $16,000. So we're talking just shy of 2 months. And he had driven about 17,000 miles. And he was averaging right at about 99 cents a mile. Now, she says that's well within reasonable averages for a driver, for a cargo van driver. Now, again, today being February 16, 2023, I am now in my 60th day of having put my van into service. And so far, I've driven right at about 8,900 miles. I've also made right at about $1,100,665 so far. Now, I'll show you the exact numbers right here in this graphic. And over the last 30 days, from January 17th through today, I've made right at about $6,090, or just south of $6,100. And that comes out to averaging about $1.58 a mile over the last 30 days. But in my entire ownership of this van, I've averaged right at about $1.40 a mile. So it's still early in the process. That said, with me averaging about $1.40 a mile overall, I've also driven less than half of the miles that this guy has driven. The other thing is that I'm home every night, whereas he's been out on the road a couple of weeks at a time. And with me being home every night, that's more than fine with the queen of my life, and it's also more than fine with me too. And the other thing is that I put in, when I'm out, at least when I put in a full day's grind and hustle, I'm out anywhere between 6 and 8 hours a day. Today, on a day like today, which is a Thursday, I tend to put in a half a day on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I've shared this many times here on the Get Geezer channel. And when I put in a half a grind, I'm out there anywhere between 3 and 4.5 hours. Today, for example, I was out there just under 4 hours, and I made $103 and change. Now, for the inquiring minds, I'm putting these numbers out there for the inquiring minds because there are people who often ask me questions of expenses and things like that. I have spent so far on gas with this van since December 16, 2022, and that includes the money that I put in the drive from Georgia back to South Carolina. I've spent a grand total of $1,354.45, of which $331.40 has been spent so far in the month of February. Now, what I'm getting at is that my van gets consistently anywhere between 400 and 425 miles a tank, or anywhere is about 17 to 20 miles a gallon. So keep those numbers in mind as I talk further into this segment of the Get Geezer. So proportionately speaking, I'm not doing bad. And this guy, and you got to remember, this guy's out 2 or 3 weeks at a time. Okay. And, again, I'm home every night. But before I go on to the next pertinent point about my van ownership, I want to address these comments and inquiries about my expenses in general. Now, while some people may have a sincere and genuine curiosity about expenses, you got to understand that one's expenses vary from person to person and from business to business. The other thing is that I often see with people who want to throw up the question about, who want to throw up the discussion about expenses. When you post something about what you made, they want to say, oh, but you got to take into account miles and gas and taxes and all the and food and blah blah blah. To me, it appears that when people are quick to throw that out there, they want to diminish your accomplishment of having made the money that you've made. The next thing that I see when people want to put out there about expenses, to me, it is also a sympathy point for people who don't make the money. And so they want to say, well, I struggled. I was out there 10 hours and I made only $120 and I put $40 for gas and I spent this on a tire because it blew on me. You know what? I'm out on. I have an issue with that sympathy talk. That's why I call it sympathy talk, because that just tells me that, or as what we used to say in track, that's loser's gimp. That's what it is. It's loser's gimp material. But my actual thought about expenses is this. For a business person, for someone who's managed to stay in business, someone who's managed to turn some kind of profit, expenses is nothing more than a way or an avenue to reduce your taxable income. That's all it is. It's just a way of reducing your taxable income according to the IRS. How you do what you do is on you, and I'll just leave it at that. Now, the next thing that I posed to myself was load boards. And quite honestly, on one of my more recent Gig Geezer segments, in fact, and this is the screenshot of that segment of the Gig Geezer, I talked about medical courier contracts, and I also talked about load boards. And I didn't have much to say about load boards then, and my opinion sure as hell ain't changed after today. Now, the reason why I said it certainly hasn't changed today, just for the hell of it, I put in bids on some load opportunities that were based in this immediate region. In fact, one of them was based out of Colombia. But the ones that I'm going to show you are the ones that I put in bids for at 78 cents a mile, at 72 cents a mile, and 62 cents a mile. And of course, I didn't get any of them. Now, these bids were based off of my having contracted with this logistics company out of Pennsylvania, and the way we see these load or trip opportunities is through an app-based load board. This app-based load board will show you a bid that you can accept at, it's going to range anywhere between 90 cents a mile and $1.15 a mile. The shorter trips are going to have a preset offer that you can accept that puts in that bid anywhere in upwards of $1.15 a mile. The longer trips are going to come in at 90 cents a mile. I've had access to this load board now for just about 2 weeks. And as you see here with this screenshot, I have seen a little over 1,000 trips, but I've yet to, as I've already mentioned, I've yet to secure a load for me to even say that I've run one trip. And why? Well, I shared with you already that I put in at 78, 72, and 62 cents a trip. What it's telling me is that people are putting in bids far less than even I would venture to say even less than 60 cents a mile. Now just think on these terms. Let's just say if it was a 60 cent a mile that won a trip or that load. Let's say if you drove from Columbia, the Columbia, South Carolina metropolitan area, which is where I'm at, to where I'm from is Houston. That's 1,000 miles. And a person puts in a bid that gets it at 60 cents a mile. That means that they're going to be paid $600 for that trip. Now, I mentioned about my van gets me anywhere between 400 and 425 miles on the tank. That means when you're driving to Houston, which is straight through a 14 to 15 hour trip, you're going to have 3 tank fulls to get there. So that means at $75 a full tank, you're spending $225 just one way. And let's just say that you don't even get a load coming back. So you deadhead those 1,000 miles. That's another 3 tanks of gas. So you're at $450. That means you're going to clear maybe $150 for that trip, 2,000 miles of driving altogether, 28 hours of driving. You put in for $600, you may clear $150 if you don't get anything coming back. I just can't wrap my brain around that, and I sure as hell can't continue to insult my own business acumen by looking at those load opportunities, at least at this time of the year. Maybe I'll come back and see what's going on, but right now it's not worth it. And by the way, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. So now the next question for myself is, what about brokering my own opportunities? The simple and short answer is, I'm not there yet. I have not had enough time in the cargo van business to try to broker my own opportunities. And that would mean subscribing to certain load boards, and at least the load board that I have subscribed to, which is supposedly the leading load board, I have already wasted $45 this for 1 month subscription. I've already canceled my subscription. Now, the reason why it may not be worth my while is because from my market, the Columbia, South Carolina metropolitan area, I have not seen many loads come up. And by me subscribing, it is supposed to allow me to filter whatever loads that are in this area to also include cargo vans. But I don't see many of those during the week. I have seen in the last week and a half that I've had this subscription, I've seen maybe a grand total of 20 loads or 20 trips, 20 loads on that app. So that tells me I'm in the wrong place to see those opportunities, at least using that supposedly leading load board. So now the final question is, then what am I doing? What am I doing with this cargo van? How am I making it work so far, at least for me? What has been my strategy? And what do I recommend? Well, to answer one question, has it been worth me owning this cargo van? Has it been worth me going through what I've gone through with this cargo van? And so far, I will say sincerely, yes, because it's been worth my while, because it's given me a greater capacity to make more money so far as opportunities have arisen. Now, as you see here on this thumbnail, I had my first $500 earnings day, and that was a result of me having this cargo van. So, and I also had a $400 day a couple of days later, and I believe that is also a result of me having owned this cargo van. I made $1,600 that week, and that was my best week since 2021. So I think that I don't like to talk potential, but I see where the capacity is there to make more money. And my goal has been to step it up to where I'm making $2,000 to $2,500 a week. My best week so far in owning this van has been $1,600. What I've made is at a minimum of $1,100 and the most $1,600. But so far, a realistic number, what I've made is somewhere in that $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 range. Now, the question is owning a cargo van worth it for you? I would say the answer is maybe. Maybe it's worth it for you because you may find a way of putting yourself in a position to make money with the van. And that's really the important thing. The important thing is, what are you doing to put yourself in a position to make the money with the van? Now, I also shared in another segment of the Gig Geezer about some of the more realistic costs in owning a van. I'd seen material out there where folk are saying that you can start your own cargo van business for $300 or less. Those people are full of shit. Okay, they're just outright full of shit. I mean, if you're going to do it right, you're going to have to put out some money for a cargo van. Now, the last outlay of money that I put out on this cargo van was for $41.50, which was for some vehicle magnets. And those vehicle magnets are really for when I run this van over the road or regionally, if and when I get those real load opportunities, as what I call them. The other expense occurred at the end of January, in which I had to finally pay for property tax on this van in South Carolina. Before you even get your license plate and license plate sticker, you've got to pay property tax. The property tax on this van was $1,155. Then my license plate, which you pay for 2 years, but every year you got to pay property tax, but your license plate is for 2 years. It cost me $62. So I put out just south of $1,220 just to have registration and license plate. Now, when I took this van off the lot, I had to put out a grand total of, before I took this van off the lot, I put out $2,300, of which that was money down on the van, but also for gap insurance. Thing is, when you make a commercial purchase, the banks don't lend money to you at the same loan to value as, say, a personal vehicle. They tend to approve loans for less of a loan to value, which means that you have to put more down on the vehicle if you're not paying for it outright. That said, $2,300. Then I put out $1,500 in insurance. People have asked me about how much I pay for insurance. That insurance is for 2 drivers now. That's for myself and the queen of my life, who's also a partner in this venture. So that's for 2 people. I've seen that that's what some people pay for themselves. Now, what you pay for your insurance rate is going to vary based on your coverages. I have the max. I have the desired $1 million coverage with 100,000 cargo coverage, and also got the commercial general liability. So I've got all the stuff that what people really be looking for. So that's why I pay $1,500. I could go in for $300,000 and not pay as much, or I could try to put it under my personal insurance. But if you're going to do it the right way, you got to put out some money. So altogether, when you count my MC number or my DOT number, the authority, which is $300, the individual compliances that you have to register, and all the universal carrier register number, all that stuff, that was $500. In fact, if you want to check out this segment of the Gig Geezer, I went into great detail about that. So that was $500. And then the US DOT requires that you, if you're going to be going over the road, you got a first aid kit, an approved first aid kit, a 5-pound fire extinguisher, and you got to have emergency reflectors for an emergency situation. That cost me $180. So altogether, just starting out, cargo van business, I had to put out $6,000. That is a more realistic number. Now, by the way, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome comments in the section below. Now, as a part of my strategy, what I like to do is find a dispatcher. I want to try the dispatcher route, but I've not had much success finding a dispatcher. It's like you find a couple of places, you call them, and then they tell you to send an email or you fill out this form and they'll get back with you. I ran into someone I knew from Amazon Flex days, and she gave me, I hadn't even told her yet what happened, so she's finding out on here on YouTube more than likely. She gave me the number of somebody in Missouri who used to be a dispatcher for her. The lady has not called me back, and I contacted her on Monday, and I've not tried to call her back. When I did contact her, she hung up on me twice before I was able to get a hold of her. So that kind of tell you, I guess she was not interested. Many of the dispatchers that I've seen, they don't like to deal with cargo vans for whatever reason. So finding a dispatcher, at least so far in my experience, has been a rather elusive, an elusive thing to secure for myself. But I'm still working on it. Now, so far, how I have made my money has been, since putting my van into service, has been on the Gig food delivery apps and the Gig last mile delivery apps. If you were to get into the cargo van business cold without any other avenues of making money, I'm certain that you could do it, but it's going to be tough if you're starting from absolute zero scratch and trying to make money. And that means after putting out, in my case, already $6,000 to get going. That's a difficult scenario to overcome. But the DoorDash, the Grubhubs, the ubereats, the Instacarts, and then the roadies and other apps like that, and I'm trying to get active or hopefully begin to see opportunities on certain last mile apps. I feel though that without going over the road, at least even from my market, the Columbia, South Carolina market, I believe that if all things were to really work, I can get up to 7,000 to 7,500 a month. But I think the missing component still is the capacity to go regionally or over the road, get those long trip opportunities on a consistent basis. That is a part of the equation, but it's not everything for me. But I also believe that it may get me to that 8,200 to 9,000 to 10,000 a month range where I would surely love to be. Now, just based on the numbers alone, if you were to make 100,000 a year, you need to make at least $8,250 a month. I'm at over 6,000 a month. I'm 75% of the way there. So it's a matter of me just finding the right combination, as I've shared previously on a few occasions. So I also believe that because of me making the money that I have been making, even prior to putting this van into service, even prior to me securing the transaction for this van, the fact that I've been making this kind of money, that's also kind of been a brace for me in terms of resisting the temptation of going certain routes in which, like a medical courier contract that I shared in this segment of the Gig Geezer, in which they were offering $145 a day, but then I'd have to put out $150 before I even do my first route. And then once I'm out there, I'm losing almost $70 a day just doing their route. So that's helped me to resist the temptation, and it's also helped me to be selective and somewhat, I guess, observant and patient with as I've gone on in this venture. So the next time I provide an update, it's going to be in another 30 days at 90 days. And then for the remainder of 2023, it'll be an update at 6 months of ownership, and then after 1 year. And hopefully I have helped you gain some type of perspective on owning a cargo van and being in a cargo van business. And with that, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane, and as always, may your hustle and may your grind continue.